Hi, welcome and good morning. I'm here with Sigi Loya. Thank you so much for joining me, Sigi.
Welcome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we've known each other for a really long time. But before we go there, what I'd like to do is just to read a little bit about your bio, so people can get the opportunity to get to know you a little bit. Fiji is the owner of the Alternative Board in Pittsburgh. TAB helps growth-minded companies come together to form a quasi-board of directors where business owners can run ideas and problems past each other to obtain different perspectives. He's originally from Brownsville, Texas. He's married to his beautiful wife, Lauren, and has 3 children. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, as we were just talking a little bit before, you're a Tab owner, and I just joined Tab Israel. So why don't we just start there and you tell us a little bit about your involvement with Tab? Why did you get involved, and what are you up to today?
Sure. Um, I met TAB, the organization, the local franchisee here in Pittsburgh, 15 years ago. And, my wife and I had started our own business 18 years ago. So we were in it. And for a few years, I knew it was not my first startup. So I had started business before, but we had the good fortune of starting a cash private pay medical practice at the beginning of the 2008 recession. So it was the worst time to start a business, but we didn't know we were in a recession at the time. Anyway, things weren't going well. And I happened to meet a gentleman with Tab, um, and he invited me to a meeting with other business owners because that is the model. We basically sit around TAB stands for the Alternative Board of Directors. So you sit around and you commiserate and talk about common issues. And it's interesting because after I left the meeting, I knew I had to join because not because I had a real reason. I was in such a low place at the time because our business, when you start a business, it rarely goes up. There's a lot of this, right? So I was in one of these down cycles, and just the thought of hanging out with other business owners who don't have a horse in the race, but they're trying to help you with advice or different ways of looking at situations just appealed to me at a very, very basic level. And, not that it was all rosy with the business. We started going up, but sometimes come down. I do remember a few years on, we were one of the down periods again. Um, we were looking to cut expenses. So I was looking at the profit and loss statement and going line by line. And Lauren, my wife, asked me, well, what about cutting tab? And I looked at her like she was crazy because I said, this is exactly when I need tab the most, is when things aren't going well. And that's that story. I love that story because it's true and it illustrates the power of peer advisory. And no one knows what it's like to be a business owner like another business owner, and that's why I love Tab.
That's so true. Let's take a quick break. I want to remind you that if you're interested in learning more about neuro emotional coaching or kinesiology, if you would like to have a taste, find out what it could do for you or your business, your family, please look at the show notes. There's a link for a 30-minute free introductory meeting, and we can explore it. You can look at what is holding you back? What are your dreams? What is it that you always wanted to achieve? Don't be shy, sign up. Now, let's get back to the show. I mean, you and I met each other, I think, 20 years ago when you were having your own mortgage shop.
Right.
And, I've coached business owners for, 30 some years. I come from a, 4-generation family business. And I agree with you. It's like to be with other business owners and to be able, like we just talked about, to be completely vulnerable. You don't have to pretend it's going well. You can just air all your dirty laundry and talk about problems that you have. I think it's good. And then there's all these other tools that come with it that I, as a business coach, just couldn't provide, business with it. So I'm excited to see what the future holds and how we'll be able to support businesses.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. You know, everybody loves to give advice. Uh, if you don't own your own business, it's not that I won't listen to you because you may have a good idea that I hadn't thought of, but I don't do anything major without running it by my peers, my
Mm.
other business owners. They just have a more holistic view of business versus people who work, let's say in corporate America, where I used to work in corporate America back in the day,
Right.
um, tend to be very, uh, they're sort of in their own silo. If you're in sales in corporate America, that's all you know. If you're in finance in corporate America, that's all you know. And to be able to sit up here and view all of the buckets of business, um, you just don't understand what it's like to own a business unless you own a business. And that's why being able to harness the power of multiple business owners and their experiences is huge. Because as I tell would be entrepreneurs or people that are new entrepreneurs, the secret to business, to running a business, is to learn from other people's mistakes as quickly as possible. There's no honor in making mistakes. We don't go out trying to make mistakes; they just sort of happen. So you try to minimize that, and sitting around a table, you're able to learn from other people. And if someone brings a situation up, someone else might say, "Oh, we had that same situation 6 months ago. Here's what we did and it worked," or "Here's what we did and it didn't work."
Right.
It's incumbent on me to figure out, which, what I should do and everything. But I just think the power of peer advisory in any industry is absolutely critical to being successful.
No, I agree with you. Because maybe as a coach, I have this great idea, but that I'm just one person, and if I hear it seven other times from my peers, maybe then it has more weight. You
Right.
know.
Well, and also on that point, Barb,
Yeah.
um, the other people that are calling on for advice, they don't have a horse in your race, so to speak.
That's right.
It's not that they don't care what happens to you, but they don't care what happens to you because it's your business. You can do whatever you
Yeah.
want,
Right.
right? And that kind of straight advice is what's needed, what business owners need. Because if I'm a business owner and I have a lawyer and I have an accountant and a banker, yeah, they'll tell me what I need to hear, but I'm their client. If they
Yeah.
tick me off, they'll get fired, so to speak, and they lose the business. Around a tab meeting, that you don't have to worry about that because they're just there to help you.
Right. So there's not that dotted line or that interest or something. They want to keep
Right.
me as a client or whatever. Yeah, for sure. So I want to go a little bit in a different direction because we sort of talked about it, that when you're in business, and not just when you're in business, you have tough times. So would you be willing just to share, maybe a little bit more details about, a difficult time that you went through, and what did you do? How did you get yourself through it? And maybe talk about both sometimes there's the tactical component to it, and sometimes, and also, like a mindset. There's like, multiple things that we need to do, I think, in order to like get
Right.
ourselves where to be.
Well, um, regarding tough times, it's very difficult if it's the first time you've gone through it. And I don't mean in life, I mean as a business owner. Because
Okay.
before people launch their business, they have this imaginary trend line that they're going to start here. It's going to go like this, right? And that's not always the case. In fact, it's usually not the case. And where I see it a lot, and I experienced it somewhat, was when you come from corporate America and you are the man or the woman in corporate America, you're the assistant VP of whatever, right? You think you're pretty good, right? And then all of a sudden you're on your own. You have no employees. You have one or two clients maybe. And all of a sudden you have to sell now. And you show up and you think that hey, it's me. Everybody should just be coming to me because I'm the greatest, whatever. And and that rarely happens. In fact, it usually never happens. And that's very humbling for people. All of a sudden, they don't have any clients and they have bills that they got to pay, their house payment and all this stuff. It's a race against the clock in terms from a cash flow revenue wise. So anyway, when we first started the practice, it was like this, as I said earlier, right? And the way to get through that, I guess, is to check the fire in your belly. And I always talk to when I talk to would-be entrepreneurs, that's the first question, might be the only question I ask them, is how hot is that fire in your belly to be an entrepreneur, to work for yourself? Because it better be burning red hot. Because when things aren't going well, that's the only thing you have to call on to help you keep going. So I remember one of our tough times in the medical practice. And remember, the medical practice was my third startup, so I was not a rookie to entrepreneurship. But it was very different. We're a private pay cash practice. We have to go find our patients, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, there was one time we were one of the low periods, and I happened to be in a tab meeting, and I didn't even have an issue to bring up to the other owners. I just felt bad. I'm like, this is the third time I got to deal with this cash flow issue, blah blah blah. And one of the members who's still a member of ours, this is going back 10, 11 years ago. He said, we've all been through this. Everybody in the room, we've all had cash flow issues. We've all almost went out of business, kind of a thing. The only thing I can tell you is you will perform better. You will perform at your best when your back is up against the wall, because you become hyper focused, right?
Wow.
What are the 2 or 3 things I absolutely have to do? Forget about all this other stuff, and boom. And I knew we needed more customers, right? I mean, who doesn't? But I just had to be, and I have a background in sales. I had to just be focused on sales. And the last thing that he said was just to keep punching, just keep fighting. And that's all he had for me. There wasn't any tactical advice or you should do that. And to this day, I always remember that, because that's exactly what I needed to hear at that exact moment. So for people that are going through difficult times in business, specifically business ownership, just keep that in mind. There's a reason that you went out on your own. Don't forget that fire in your belly, why it exists. And that's not to say that it may make sense for you to close up shop and go get a job, because that's what the family or your financial commitments, command or demand. But once you're an entrepreneur, you're always an entrepreneur. So I would say go get the job for a while until you plan your next move. But this time you'll be smarter about it. You know more, right? So I don't, and I've seen people go out of business, and it personally pains me, because I know it's not like things are going great and you fell off a cliff, right? It's a slow decline typically, and the stressful nights that entrepreneur is enduring and not being able to sleep and their savings is going down stinks, right? And I hate to see that, but it does happen. But anyway, I would just say just keep punching, keep fighting. That's the best advice I could have ever gotten during those low periods.
And so how did you do that? You just kept fighting and, coming up with new innovative ways to find customers, or change your strategy? Like where did the people, how did they, how did you grow then?
Yeah, well, now you got to put your tactical hat on, right? Okay, I'm looking at the profit and loss. I got to shave off whatever, 15% off expenses, etc. One of the issues that I see almost all the time, especially with people who come to business ownership from a sales background, is they think they can sell their way out of it.
Oh, really?
Present company included. Hey, I just need to get 10 more customers and we're going to be fine, right? And I need to get 20 or whatever, right? And I'm not saying it's not possible. I mean, it's just simple mathematics, right? If you get 10 customers at whatever, $3,000 a month, you'll be fine. But it's a lot of pressure to put on you, because what's really happening is if you only do that, what you're not doing is you're not cutting expenses. And this is much harder than this, because especially if you have employees, these are people that are going to lose their jobs. Okay. I will tell you this. Also from a tab meeting, someone, they weren't even talking to me, they were talking to somebody else during the meeting. They said, align your expenses with your revenue as quickly as possible. And business owners typically don't do that. If they're having a tough time on the revenue side and expenses are here, they'll say, oh, I can sell my way out of it, so I'll be up here. What this person is saying is, no, cut expenses to that these are equal. And it's fantastic advice and very difficult for owners to do, because these are real people. These are people they hired. These are people who believed in the owner, and all of a sudden you got to cut them, right? But I will tell you, that tab member was absolutely correct. And it's very, very painful. Okay. But because if you go down, if you are making enough money, if you go out of business, everybody loses their job anyway. So really, so you asked, what do we do? Number one is we increase our sales efforts, right? So that we honed in on the people, because I'm big on referral sources. So like pharmacists and other medical providers sending us providers. So we had to go, or sending us customers. So we had to go have lunch with them and talk to them and tell our story one by one. It's not glamorous, but you got to do it, right? We cut expenses. That includes letting people go, and it stinks. But then at the same time, we also established metrics or KPIs that would allow us, that would inform us as to when these were starting to become out of balance. Okay. So that I could take action quicker. Because I can tell you, if you don't cut expenses when times are tough, because you think you can sell your way out of it, 6 months from now or a year from now, you're still going to cut those expenses anyway. You're just going to have less money. You're going to be poor. And that's not a good way. So my advice is to make the hard decisions sooner. And it never gets any easier to make a hard decision, but it does get quicker. You're more apt to pull the trigger on some of these hard decisions that you have to make.
And how do you do that? Like, emotionally, I mean, like, I can't tell you how many conversations I'm having right now with, global companies that have to cut 15%, or I'm like, no, wherever they are, from the UK to United States to Europe, everybody's like, big companies are really struggling to do a lot of cuts. And most of the time I get the people that then just have to inform the employers to actually do it. So how do you keep yourself mentally in a good place, or emotionally sort of like optimistic when there's a lot of stress going on?
It can be very difficult. There's a couple of thought processes to help you, right? Number one is, this is going to sound very brutal, and I don't mean it this way, but it's just the way it is. It's you or them.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Because if you don't make those decisions, the whole thing's going to go under anyway, right? Now, what you can do if you're going to let people go is, and you like them, meaning that you're not firing them, you're laying them off, let's just say. An old boss told me this back in corporate America. We were going through layoffs back in the day. She said, give them as much severance as you can if you can afford it. And number two, open up your contact list to help them land somewhere, right? And I've done that before, right? So you don't owe them anything. I mean, this is just the society that we live in, right? So it's very, very, very hard. It's you or them, so to speak, right? But there is a way to do it humanely.
Right.
The second thing I would tell you is, the reason you're in management, or the reason you are the boss, or the reason you're the owner, is you get paid to make the hard decisions.
Mm.
If it's the number one criteria I have of a manager. Can you lay people off? Can you make hard decisions? Because if you can't be a manager. You just can't. So, and we can help you through that, right? But some people can't. In fact, most people can't. And then you can't manage people. So it's very, very difficult. But I will tell you, when you're dealing with, if your boss says, I need you to lay off, 10% of your staff, then the issue becomes, who do you lay off? Right. And we don't have time for all that, how to figure that out. But at the end of the day, now you feel like you're the Grim Reaper, you got to go and you're going to let people go and all this kind of stuff. And it's very, very difficult. I would tell you, once it's done, find other people who have gone through what you've gone through as a manager or the owner, and just commiserate. And it's difficult. And I will tell you this, as an owner who has gone through that from the owner standpoint, the last time I went through, and it's been a while, but I vowed to never let that happen again. Because once you do the post-mortem and you're able to look at, okay, how did we get here? Oh my gosh, our sales have been going down for 8 months. Why didn't I see that? Okay, our cost of goods, our expenses have been going. So once you have the mindset to do an autopsy on what happened, it'll be clear as day as to how I got there.
Right.
I didn't see it at the time.
Right.
Now, for the next time, don't let those things happen. Now, start monitoring them, and that's how you become a better business owner.
What you're talking about sort of reminds me when I was a kid. My mother, my parents would sit around the table and talk about the responsibility that they had as business owners to all the people that worked there. And in the 70s, they had about 100 employees, which, that was a lot of people for, small business, not so small business in Germany. And I was like, wow, because you don't really look at it that side. And even if you're a solo entrepreneur, I don't have any employees, but I still have people that work for me. So it's like my responsibility to do whatever I can so that I can continue to pay those people whose services I'm using. So that's one point. And the other point I want to make, don't you know a lot of business owners that are not paying themselves or are thinking about not paying themselves? And what do you say to them? Because
Oh
I
my
think
gosh.
it's a flag.
Yeah. So there's a book called Profit First. I forget
Okay.
the author's name, but I highly recommend it. And he spoke at one of our conferences, a TAB conference, and the premise is very simple, and he's very right. So this is typically how owners pay themselves. You have revenue, subtract out expenses, and whatever's left is profit, and they pay themselves out of the profit.
Yeah, right.
Right? That's how people do it.
Right.
What they should be doing is you have revenue minus profit slash meaning owner's compensation.
Right.
Revenue minus the owner getting paid, and the rest goes to expenses. It's a whole different way of thinking.
Yeah.
But it's very simple. It's just you as the owner, you have to get paid first. If you don't, the whole party ends. The whole business comes crashing down. Most owners don't. They feel an obligation to pay their employees, or I need, I need to hire somebody or whatever. And I'm like, no, do what needs to get done so that you get paid first. And which leads me to a different point. So if you look at an organizational chart, right? So just draw a triangle, right? And you're up here. Most smaller entrepreneurs, what they'll say is, oh, I need to hire, let's say they've had a little bit of success. I need to hire another salesperson
Right.
to go get more business.
Right.
And which is right, near the top of the pyramid. I tell them, no, what you need, the first hire you need to hire is the janitor. And what I mean by that is, so here's a pyramid, right? Imagine you worked in a a 10,000 employee corporation. You'd have the CEO, then various vice presidents, then directors, then managers or whatever. Then you have employees, then you have the janitors at the bottom. Okay. What I'm saying is the first hire, when it's just you, should be the janitor, because not that you're above emptying the trash cans. Okay. And you might even do that now.
Right.
But your time, it's about billable hours. So
Right.
you can pay the janitor whatever, $20 an hour to do that, versus the hour it would take you to clean is an hour you could be making phone calls or negotiating
Right.
deals or whatever.
Right.
So I always tell people, don't hire that first salesperson. Hire the assistant first. Because what you need when you're up here is time. And if this person can take 5, 10, 15 hours off of your plate by doing admin stuff, another way to look at it is do the job that your billable hour commands. So if you're up here, whatever billable hour is $100, $23 an hour, okay, why would you be emptying the trash cans when you can find somebody else to do that? And that's very eye-opening to a lot of business owners who are just starting out.
Exactly. Don't cut the grass if you can hire somebody.
Right. And to be clear, it's not that you're above cutting the grass. It's just
No,
looking
no,
to
you're
do
not.
other people.
I just had that talk with my neighbor yesterday. I was like, so how much do you pay the gardener? Because I actually enjoy doing it, but I'm like, do I really have the time to like maintain all my bushes? And I'm always afraid that I'm going to cut the telephone lines.
Right.
So no, exactly. Those are very important lessons that one learns by making those mistakes if one doesn't listen to what other people have to say.
Oh,
You know,
there are business owners now. We have one client that has about 300 employees. Um, he works 70, 80 hours a week. And I've never done a time audit with him, but I just know there's no way, there's no reason that the president of a company, owner of a company, should be working that hard. Not at that. And you can easily find stuff to fill your day. Always, always, always. So,
well, I mean, when how many, I don't know how, I stopped counting. I've started a few businesses. And, you know, for a while, my business was sort of like everything, my stand-in for everything. My children, relationship, my friends. It's like everything that I needed to compensate, I would compensate with my business. So, some people there's no need to work that 70, 80, 90 hours, but they do it because there's actually other reasons of why they want to do it.
well, but when I say work, I'm talking about work. I don't mean life. I don't mean like
No, I know.
time with your kids is not work. Okay.
No, but I know.
But it's interesting because like it's just a society that we live in.
Yeah.
I think that we are conditioned that you should work a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Um, that if you're not working, what are you doing? Just wasting your time. Just throw that out the window, man. I mean, listen, I'm not impressed by someone who makes $1 million a year and works 80 hours a week. Anybody can do that. I'm impressed by the person who makes $1 million a year and hardly works at all because they figured it out. That's what we're trying to do. And
Exactly.
so this whole thing about working a lot of hours. I mean, if you want to work, if you enjoy it, do it, right? But you're smart enough, hopefully, to figure out a different way around the mountain, right? How do I do this? How can I build a business without having to sacrifice my family and friends and social life and health and all that?
Well said. I think it's probably getting close for us to wrap it up. Is there, an advice or a tip or, something that we haven't talked about that want to share with the listeners or our viewers, that can really help them when they're not doing so well?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a book 15, 20 years ago called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's a Stoic philosophy book, right? Um, I live by that because we all have challenges, right? And
Yeah.
um, if you look at if you're going down a country road and it's clear sailing, it's just one road, no obstacles at all. And all of a sudden, somebody plops a huge mountain in front of you, and you got to get around the mountain or to the other side of the mountain. Most people look at that mountain as insurmountable, right? Some people will try to go over the mountain. Some will go around the mountain. The book, and I espouse this, you really should go through the mountain, because in going through the mountain, you will learn things about yourself, about your business, about those around you, that you will come out a different person on the other side of that mountain. Another way to look at it is, if you take a piece of coal and you grind it enough, it'll turn into a diamond. No matter what you do, that diamond can never turn back into a piece of coal. It's the same with people and ownership. So the struggles that one is going through, will make you a better person, kind of thing. It's absolutely true. So when you have an obstacle, it's just a mindset thing. Oh my gosh, I don't want to have this problem, but I have it. I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to be a better person, smarter, and all that good stuff. And then the last thing I'll say is this. And again, I don't want to sound like a downer or macabre or anything like that, but we're all going to die at some point. And I'm 56, and I can see more. I can see less life ahead of me than behind me. And this is supposed to be fun. Last time I checked. And if you're not having fun, man, then figure it out. Like, get out of the situation you're in. Talk to other people how to get out. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow, right? But start planning the change that is needed, because it astounds me why people stay in bad jobs, thinking there's some payday somewhere, a retirement or whatever, and then they'll say, "Oh, as soon as I turn 65 and retire, I'm going to start living." No, you're not, because if you haven't been living along the way,
Right.
all of a sudden, and then your health takes a bad turn. So I would say, have fun, enjoy what you're doing. If you're not enjoying it, then make a change.
Make a change. That's good advice to end on, no matter how hard it is, because these days we're all living in a super, super challenging environment, and we could go on and on about the mountains that people are experiencing. So we are leaving you guys with courage, support, love, whatever you need in order to make a change, even if it's really tiny. So, Sigi, thank you for joining us today. We're going to put all the information about Tab Pittsburgh, Tab, in general, in the show notes. And if you liked what you saw today, please subscribe to the channel. Everybody out there, share it, because we want people to hear this. And thank you again, and have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. And here are the takeaways from my conversation with Sigi Loya. Number 1, seek out a mastermind peer advisory group or business community like Tab or others to gain support, advice, and perspective from fellow business owners who understand your challenges. Number 2, when facing tough times in business, prioritize tackling both mindset and tactical challenges, maintaining perseverance while being willing to make difficult decisions, including expense and staffing adjustments, as early as possible. Number 3, as a business owner, make it a priority to pay yourself first. Structure your business finances so your compensation is included as a core part of your business, not as an afterthought. Number 4, free up your capacity for critical and revenue-generating work by hiring support staff for lower value tasks before adding higher level positions or sales roles. Number 5, treat obstacles as opportunities to grow, learn, and build resilience. And number 6, regularly ask yourself if your business still brings you fulfillment and joy. If not, start planning intentional changes, however small, to align your work with what matters to you most. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to our channel and subscribe to the podcast. Have a great day. See you next time. Take care.